former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Pete Hoekstra, with another of his daily intelligence briefings. Pete, let's begin in Iraq with these elections. When do you expect us to start hearing some of the results?
Well, I think the results, we can maybe almost start talking about them today, JD. The results are there's not going to be a clear-cut victory. Malachi, he's not going to get enough seats in Parliament. Then the real question begins, how long will negotiations take before there's a new government in place? There's estimates, JD. This could take up to a year before the parliamentarians actually agree on a new leader. So we're going to face an election today, but probably 12 months of indecision.
Pete, we talk about partisan strife, but there seems to be sectarian strife again in Iraq. The return of Sunni Shia violence in that region. Apparently police shot and killed a would-be suicide bomber before he could blow himself up near a polling center. How significant is the split or the continued strife between the Sunnis and the Shiite?
Oh, it's huge right now, JD, and it's really the result of, when we pulled out of Iraq, there was no residual U.S. troop presence. There was no intelligence in this Iraqi government, this Iraqi military and police force. They were not ready to maintain stability in Iraq. So what you had last year, close to 9,000 Iraqis were killed in sectarian violence. This year, they're running on a pace to match those numbers again. You've got parts of the country right now, Fallujah, Ramadi, those are two names that you and I and the American people are very familiar with. They were overtaken by Al-Qaeda-linked units 4 months ago. The government's been trying to get them out of those cities for 4 months. They've been unsuccessful. So there's many parts of Sunni territory in Iraq that won't even vote. And then you've talked about Sunnis and Shias, and then you've also got the split, in the northern part of Iraq where you've got the Kurds. So it's a very ugly position right now. Throw in one more ingredient, what's happening to the religious minorities. A city like Baghdad that used to be a very diverse international city with Shias, Sunnis, and Christians all living there together. It's now a Shia city. There used to be 700,000 Christians in Baghdad. Most of them are now gone. Christians are being persecuted throughout that country.
Well, as you chronicle this, with all the different ills afoot in Iraq, it seems to say that these elections, laudatory though they may be, really don't offer an answer to the ongoing problems.
I think absolutely. In reality, what the people in Iraq are looking for, they're yearning not for Saddam Hussein, all right, but what they are yearning for is it appears from the polling and the questioning and all of those types of things. What do you want? People want stability. They want security. How are they going to get it? They believe that they're going to get it through another strong man, another dominant political figure who actually will diminish the opportunity for democracy and representative government, consolidate power, and use that power to bring security back into Iraq.
Pete, you spoke of what the Iraqi people want. They're going through an election today. It's worth noting what the American people, or what a significant portion of the American people apparently don't want any longer, and that is involvement in the world in terms of military conflict. A piece today in the Wall Street Journal talking about the number of Americans who have said, really taken on almost an isolationist bent. Taking that into account, when we look back at our involvement in Iraq, when we look at what needs to be done, and I'm not talking about boots on the ground and constant policing around the world, but how do we reconcile America's role in terms of our own national security with the rise of, for lack of a better term, neo-isolationism?
I think you've got it exactly right, JD. Where we need to go is we need to get back to the point where overarching, we've got a foreign policy strategy that Republicans, Democrats, and independents can agree on so that the American people can see where we're going and hopefully see that we're making progress and we're having success moving towards a long-term goal. You know, that got thrown out in 2003, 2004, 2005 when the Democrats recognized that they could take foreign affairs, they could turn it into partisan politics, they could use it to destroy President Bush and win elections. They were right, but the country lost when that happened because now everybody's taking foreign policy, they're turning it into partisan politics. We no longer have a unified, strong foreign policy that the American people can identify and that they can get behind. We need to get back to making foreign policy a nonpartisan policy agenda because we cannot become isolationists. We need to set an American standard around the world for freedom, democracy, and those types of things. We need international trade. We are the strongest economically. We are competitive. We can't go back into our shell. That's going to hurt us in a number of different ways.
Pete, as I listen to you, I can't help but offer a friendly amendment. When you talk about the strategy of the left in elections, they were effective. I don't know if we'd say they're, quote, right in terms of what they did in making foreign policy
I said they're right.
an issue.
I misspoke, J.D. You're right. You're correct. They weren't right, but they were
effective.
Correct in terms of winning elections.
And you're correct in terms of the partisan divisions that now afflict our foreign policy. And speaking of partisanship in elections and in governing, what do you make of the newly released Benghazi emails obtained by Judicial Watch with a senior aide telling Susan Rice, okay, we're going to blame this on a YouTube video? Is this the smoking gun? If so, what should happen now?
I think it's one of what we're going to find are 3 or 4 smoking guns out there. You know, I was running for Senate back then, and it was clear that this administration wanted to do everything that they could to make sure that this didn't evolve from a video to actually being a discussion about the president's foreign policy, because the president's foreign policy in Libya, in Egypt, and with Iran clearly was in tatters. He didn't want to have that debate. That's why they brought up the whole topic of the video. You know, the House, which is where is the only place we can do an effective investigation. They got to get off their heels. They got to go aggressively after this. At one time, Speaker Boehner said, you know, if there's any indication that this leads to the White House, we're going to go after this. This now leads the video story, the big lie of the video, directly into the White House. Speaker Boehner has to encourage and demand that his chairmen work together and they get this investigation going full speed ahead.
Pete, Frank Wolf and others
have
have talked about a select committee. The Speaker has said we've got committees of jurisdiction. Now, today, Pete, you and I have served in the House. We understand the power that the Speaker has in his gavel in terms of committees. Today, should John Boehner hold a press conference and announce a select investigation on what transpired at Benghazi and what has taken place in the White House?
I think with the information that we're getting now, there's a clear call for a special committee to get this done. The real constraint now is setting up a new committee, setting up this special committee and actually getting the work done in the last 7 or 8 months of this year. They're running into a time crunch right now.
Well, time is a 4-letter word, but failure to do anything and Congress to somehow abdicate its oversight responsibility would be something far worse. Pete Hoekstra,
actually, what they can do is they can take all the work from the 5 committees, consolidate it, and use that as a foundation to move forward.
That's a very good suggestion, born of your time as Intelligence Committee Chairman. Just one other note, less than a minute. We see the White House aide, last name of Rhodes. His brother, I believe, is the president of CBS News. What does that tell us about, for lack of a better term, an incestuous relationship between this White House and the dominant media culture?
Well, it doesn't really surprise any of us then that the CBS, really went after the person who started to expose some of the stuff going on in Benghazi, one of their own reporters, because it put the White House in a bad light. You got to be really skeptical of anything that CBS reports on Benghazi. Actually, you don't have to be skeptical because they're not reporting anything on Benghazi.
Well, that's why we're not the media. We're Newsmax. Pete Hoekstra, we always
Great, thanks,
appreciate this daily intelligence brief, and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. So it's real simple. Is it time for a select committee on Benghazi? Tweet me your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum.